the reason that he is as important to us as I think he is because he was a good artist. In his best days, he was a terrific artist. And he found some way to put together those little fragments of the world in a way that transformed them into a picture. In the same way that, a poet uses the same dictionaries that the rest of us do. All the words are in there. All the words in the poem are there. They're in alphabetical order, so you can find them. And just a matter of taking a few of them and putting them in the right order. And that's all there is to it. And so why is it that some lines of poetry, some sentences grasp us, grip us, and we think, that's right, that's true, whatever, I don't know quite what that means, but whatever it means, it's true. And a good picture does something like that. The best of Ansel's are part of our memory, part of our sense of what a picture might be made out of, what it might look like, and what it might ultimately be about, which is the part we can't explain.
His whole life would be a journey and an exploration, a search for meaning and order, for beauty and redemption, for contact with something larger and more lasting, for community, connection, and home. Born on the far western edge of the continent in the years following the close of the American frontier, he first encountered the awesome beauty of Yosemite Valley in the summer of 1916. From that day, he later wrote, "My life has been colored and modulated by the great earth gesture of the Sierra." He would spend the rest of his life trying to capture on film the wild majesty of the American continent and the sublime and humbling exaltation of wilderness.
Well, I think Ansel had a message in his art that was consistent throughout his career. And this is that the world is beautiful, that humanity is part of this larger world, that the concerns of the moment are part, but not separate from, a larger system of forces that connect us to all of creation.
I can't verbalize on the internal meaning of pictures whatsoever. Some of my friends can at very mystical levels, but I prefer to say that if I feel something strongly, I would make a photograph that would be the equivalent of what I saw and felt. When I'm ready to make a photograph, I think I quite obviously see in my mind's eye something that is not literally there in the true meaning of the word. I'm interested in expressing something which is built up from within, rather than just extracted from without.
When he photographed the wild landscape, especially in his own special home wild landscape in the High Sierra and Yosemite, he had felt some consonance with that material that was very profound, very deep, very mystical, perhaps almost religious, although he would certainly object to that very strongly because he was not in any conventional sense a religious person. And then you try to find a way to make a picture that is consonant with your sense of your relationship to that experience. Not just a place, it's an experience, especially in Ansel's case, it has to do with that time, that moment, that evanescent, disappearing thing.
For nearly 70 years, he would wander the great unoccupied spaces of the American West, photographing the landscape as the landscape itself changed all around him, and as the wild places of the continent dwindled and shrank and came under attack as never before. More than any other artist of the century, he would help transform the meaning of wilderness in America and change what people thought and felt about their own land. In the course of time, he himself would change, as the rapturous visions that sustained him in his youth lost their power and began to fade, and as he came increasingly to resemble the avuncular, trusted elder statesman of his old age. But as a young man, he had seen something in the mountains of the Sierra Nevada, something that resonated far out into the landscape and down into the deepest recesses of his soul, that would haunt him for the rest of his days, and that he would spend his entire life trying to convey.
For me, it's time that matters. Everything is impermanent, never lasting, changing the moment. In the photo reportage, which serves as our diary, only the instant counts. You must combine the emotion of a subject and the pleasure of composition, sense the golden section, control the balance of shapes. For me, those are the basics. Don't go after something. Let it come to you. Be open, receptive. That's why you mustn't think. Cézanne said, when I paint and start to think, it all goes to hell. That's the hardest for me. And then, shaping it within a background, a mood. People say, shall I? No, catch the animal in its den. The surroundings are as important as the face. Looking and seeing is not identifying, it's getting inside. Doing photo reportages, camera always in hand, is a lifetime's work. I never look for the historic shot. It comes to me. You have to be there and grab it. Be there. Don't think. Forget yourself. Don't search. It also takes a good nose and a sharp eye. There are no secrets. That's all there is to it.
O que me fascina muito, né, e me desafia, é você entrar num lugar e se espantar com uma situação real que pode se transformar, né, numa imagem, né, que seja perturbadora.
São Paulo é uma referência para você no teu trabalho, né? É ou não?
Não é porque eu vivo aqui, né? E São Paulo não te deixa sossegado, né? Para o bem e para o mal, é uma cidade que te coloca sempre questões, é desafiadora e é encantadora. Então acho que justamente por ela ter caracteres, né, ou características tão opostas, né, ela se torna muito interessante. Não tem quem não goste das coisas boas que São Paulo oferece e evidentemente questiona, né, as suas mazelas e cidade de metrópole tentacular. Meu primeiro trabalho como fotógrafo foi de repórter fotográfico, na revista Veja, e que eu era obrigado a caminhar com a câmera, né, para lá e para cá. Então, eu adotei, eu acho que eu nunca fotografei num estúdio. Já fiz uma outra coisa e tal, às vezes até para amigos, assim, mas um estúdio que é onde você pode fazer, evidentemente, trabalhos maravilhosos, né? Eu admiro muitos fotógrafos de estúdio, né? O Irving Penn, um grande fotógrafo retratista que trabalhava em estúdio, recriava ali todo um universo, mas eu não me dou bem com isso, eu não sei nem trabalhar com flash, sabe? Eu encaro minha câmera fotográfica como se fosse um bloquinho de notas, sabe? Uma coisa muito simples, que eu posso retirar do bolso e anotar. E fui levado a isso, talvez por essas circunstâncias, né? De viver numa cidade como São Paulo, que te atrai dessa maneira, te atrai para a rua, né? O fato de ter me formado arquiteto e depois trabalhado em jornalismo. Então, meu negócio é ir caminhando, né? E ir vendo as coisas e tal, e essas surpresas todas que a cidade oferece. Jamais chego a encostar nas pessoas e dizer fiquem assim, fiquem assado. O que para mim é assim, admirável é como esses rapazes aqui que eu encontrei num bar lá em São Luís do Maranhão e pedi a eles que eu fizesse uma foto, né? E só disse, olha, fiquem aqui para esse lado. Então tem uma certa construção minha, porque eu tenho aqui uma famosa luz de janela, na verdade é uma luz de porta, a gente chama de luz de janela, que é essa luz lateral, né? Que banha assim as pessoas. Agora, esses rapazes, né, são belíssimos, né, têm umas expressões fortes. Eles se posicionaram dessa maneira, sabe? Eu não precisei nenhuma direção de arte e tal, né? E eles também se puseram assim como aquele rapaz lá, né, já quase um adulto, né, aqui também tem uma porta aqui em São Luís, né? E que então eu procuro explorar a atmosfera onde essas pessoas estão, né? Mas jamais interferir a ponto de criar uma cena totalmente nova. Já falando de retrato, tem esse aqui que eu gosto, que já é um retrato roubado, né? Eu estava no barco de Salvador para Itaparica e dei de cara com essas figuras que dá para perceber que, né, são pai e filho, né? Me chamou a atenção as orelhas, o tipo de cabelo, né? Então, sem que a gente veja a fisionomia, né, o rosto, né, da pessoa, a gente logo imaginar essa cena de pai e filho, né, abraçadinhos e tal. Então, de repente, você vê isso, está ali na sua frente, né, piscando para você. Então,
esse é o acaso da fotografia.
É um acaso.
Literature, in its most conventional sense, is the idea of a single frame, of a single image that can tell everything about its subject and its character.
The first thing that came to mind when I think about a beautiful photograph is something that feels sort of soulful to me, that has some sense of the photographer's spirit in it.
Photography holds up a mirror to us as to what we are about. To me, it's about people more than anything else. Connecting is a process. It's a very human process. So in some situations, you wait to feel comfortable yourself to interact with the subject.
And that's why I'm very protective of the people I photograph, which mainly are performers. It's so hard. I mean, when you're on the other side and you know how much you see in somebody.
You know, you're kind of a one-man band. Often you're just kind of following your own nose and your own instincts, and you're just out kind of exploring, having kind of an adventure.
It's arresting, and it also has a sense of presence. And you can put it in an album, or you can put it in a drawer, you can hang it on the wall. It's there to be used and to be seen. And it's like a Bible in a hotel room. You know, it's there, and no one's going to steal it.
In the case of portraiture, that a number of artists have said, you know, I'm just taking self-portraits. And it really has a lot to do, I think, with the people they choose, the sorts of things they want to look at, but usually, you know, it's their subjects that reflect very much their interest, their desire, again, what they want to see. But it very much reflects their interest and their way of seeing, and in the end, it's not only about their subject, but it's very much about their way of looking at something.
I love pictures of people, you know, sleeping on the bench and lovers on the bench, and there's all kinds of people playing chess and doing all sorts of frisbee. It's a really very visual place. I think people when you first encounter them, they try and put on a particular mask. And I don't want people to try and look a certain way. I want them to just be completely natural and just themselves, without a kind of grinning or smiling or putting on some silly expression. This is one of my favorite pictures here. This is a picture I took in 1984. This is the women in the dust storm. That traditional dress, whether it was a turban or a sari or whatever, it evolved over hundreds or thousands of years. And then within a generation, they discard it and put on a baseball cap and a T-shirt, and then we're, you know, so that individuality, that uniqueness, it kind of starts to disappear, and it's really sad. I was in a small village called Brindavan. Widows are sent here. In India, being a widow is sort of a stigma, it's sort of a bit of bad karma or bad luck. So widows are kind of shunted off to this particular village. She was around 80 and had been living in this village as a widow since she was 14, and she could barely walk. She invited us to her home. We went there, and she gave us some tea and had this really wonderful sense of humor. And I started thinking, you know, somebody who has such bad luck in life, and somebody who has such misfortune, and somebody who can actually still be joyous and have a good attitude and a sense of humor, that's a real special person. You know, there's this commonality of humanity which comes through. Although they look different, they maybe be a nomad living in a tent, but fundamentally they're just the same as you or I. It's always good to have all your cameras set so that as soon as you see something, you can pounce. I mean, the most fun is actually to go to a city or a place with your camera and literally just walk around and explore. Initially, it's not really about pictures, it's just about enjoying life and about enjoying the day and about discovering things around you which you normally wouldn't. When you can kind of relax and get into that zone of just being in the moment, not thinking about tomorrow or yesterday or what I'm going to have for dinner, but really just focusing on what's around you at that particular point in time.